to the HUFI end of year special. Tired of the old financial game? Tonight, humanize finance, a system built on Web3 power and literacy, valuing real world, guaranteed by code. Who is the visionary? Maurice Vanegas, an LA business executive, praised by the Los Angeles Daily News. From traditional entrepreneur to crypto innovator. Welcome to the HUFI Lab. Maurice.
Juan, thank you for having me. We appreciate everything you've done for the last 7 years. We've tried to bring new technology to people that will empower them, make them feel better, give them hope for tomorrow, give them purpose, give them something to do with their time. So let's move forward. First question.
Thanks for being here. Tell us the history behind the HUFI's code and what is the link between the businessman and the innovator.
Oh, wow. Okay. Here it comes. So the HUFI movement has its roots in the 90s. As I was a young entrepreneur trying to establish businesses, one of the items that created some level of confusion, it was the disbursement of interest expense. All the real estate in our area generates monthly interest expense, but all of it is sent out of the area every month. And so the seed of the HUFI movement lies from that one idea that I wanted to create something that would inject the interest expense back. So anyway, we needed to find an answer for that, and that's how I started. I started with the idea of a partnership bank, and that idea was that we were encouraging depositors to create accounts into a local partnership bank that was community owned, and then from there generate the loans for the immediate areas. Didn't get too far on that, but we did get the knowledge about how digitally we could distribute the assets. And so then we had the financial crisis, and I was involved in that movement to some extent, especially the one here in LA. And then I was exposed to documentaries about monetary policy, and it is from that experience that I created the documentary Jekyll Island: The Truth Behind the Federal Reserve. And it's at that time that I figured out, how the Federal Reserve dollar is created into existence. And so, this is how we start everyone in the HUFI movement that is going to be a promoter to teach others, because you can't just teach people to create a website. At least that's not my vision. We want to teach people why you're creating the website. And so that's the first step every promoter does, is watch the documentary and understands about fractional reserve lending and how the Federal Reserve dollar comes into existence. Conjunctively, as this is all happening, we started a programming academy, a local programming academy for the kids that I would coach at the parks in basketball to teach them how to code. And then I was a student myself, and we learned from the basics to C++, complex languages, and other complex languages. And it started around 2016 when we started recognizing the programming of Bitcoin with the monetary policy. Those points intersected, and that's when I started having more ideas about the original idea of how we can cure this injustice that communities generate interest expense, but then it's sent out every month. Imagine if all that money stayed within our communities. How would our parks look? How would our streets look? How would our local municipalities salaries of the people that run the programs look? And so, better distribution of income. With that, it being social, no, social rules, because when you start doing the rules, you start picking winners and losers, and that's the fight between capitalism and socialism. But in the end, the ideas that matter, that sustain, are ones that the people individually choose to accept. And so now we're fast tracking. We understand Bitcoin. We're mining Bitcoin. But there was nothing you could do with Bitcoin aside from making sure the machines were always working. And it was no fun for me. I wanted a solution to the problem in the 90s. And so we started with the EOS network, and we saw what it could do. We saw the efficiencies and the logic of the tokenomics and how to incentivize people, but there was still no viable usage for what blockchain creates. And so it took one Sunday to realize that maybe we could do it. And so that's where EOS Microloan was born. And then we leveraged EOS Microloan into EOS Marketplace, and then that was in Venezuela. It was very new, and we produced a lot of ideas, and but we were still creating more. And of course, now we're with EOS Template 1, where you could pretty much do anything, and it behaves as a wallet. You could create a website, you can stake your MLT to earn, and you can swap. You can participate in the liquidity pool for swapping MLT and EOS, and I ended up with a patent 11798-073, and the idea there is peer-to-peer lending using blockchain technology. And I purposely created the code that you can't charge interest on it, because in the end, I think we all want something for risking our assets. That risk comes at the expense of, or investment, and that's probably a better word, that our neighbors are better. Then theoretically, our neighbors being better will make us better, and henceforth, we really don't need another additional reward on the value we lend to others. So anyway, plus it also simplifies the code. If you're not, someone can charge 6%, someone can charge 6.25, and you're analyzing all these things, in real time, it adds to the resources of the algorithm to compute the different interests. So that was also a reason why we decided to go with no interest. But at the soul of it, everybody can improve quicker if there's no interest. If there's no interest expense that's keeping other people down. So anyway, and here we are, 2025.
Your first frustration was local. You saw interest money just live in LA. So you started looking into finance basics. Then you studied how money is truly created. What was the big shocking failure you found? And what alternative did you find to fix that core failure?
Q5 movement is peer-to-peer lending. It's the ability to use your time and leverage it to create value. So right now we're under the system of fractional reserve lending. This system creates paper currencies. We get paid accepting this paper currency. Then we use this paper currency to start an action. And that has worked well for 10% of the population, right? The 80% of the population that doesn't have a viable fiat currency that actually sustains its value, bank accounts, credit cards, access to capital, and on and on and on. The Q5 movement is exactly it. It's exactly what the name is. It's human-generated finances, where I, Maurice Vanegas, can lend an hour of my time to run on this and upload this data to a shareable digital area where we can interact with this information, pay it, have access to what the balance is, pay in portions, pay in parts, and then the ability to create a user interface so that this is viable, right? Meaning that you're going to lend me your time for a week to help me manage the Q5 movement, and it's going to take this much time, and this is how much we agreed on, and we're creating this user interface for me to order your services, and then when you confirm, then I owe it, and then I make payments on it, and then there's a record for everyone. And so that's in essence the Q5 movement, using our time to create value that wasn't there before at zero interest, and it's fully backed because we're using our time at the lowest rung. Obviously, if I have product or assets or land with crops, you're lending that as well. But at the essence, it is time that has the value, and that's what you're lending. And so what becomes really interesting and powerful for me is that there's no risk, because we always think that when you invest, there's a risk. But if I invest or you invest in me to lend me your time, and I may not pay, let's say, well, what happened to your time anyway if I wasn't there to ask for it? And so the risk becomes the same. You either use it or lose it, or use it and have some level that you may not get paid for it, but at the same time, that shouldn't be enough to stop us from all of us using our time to create something positive. And as we start seeing the marks that people make when they're being lent, is that you're creating now a record of who you are, and that in essence will become another business.
Sir, please define Q5 simply. How does that technology build value and solve access? Essentially, what is the humanized finance movement?
So it's very simple, right? All you got to do is go to www.eostemplate1.com and begin creating your website. And the advantages are you do not need a credit card account. You don't need an email. You don't need to worry about a bank account where you're going to receive the funds being paid to you. You don't need to worry about security because the website's being deployed into a secure an area where security is already being enforced, and establish your prices. It's and within seconds your website can be seen by anyone in your area, anyone in the world, right? And so that's amazing. But remember, the invention is peer-to-peer lending at zero interest with certain incentives. The HuFi tools were added by our team so people could interact with that. But in essence, it's very simple, and we're very hopeful. We certainly see people using it every day, and we're just waiting for that catalyst where it will be that one neutron that gets released that knocks another neutron off another energy element that then creates more economic actions, and next thing we know, everybody's doing it. And so that's what we're waiting for. But the basics is for everyone to be used. And I will say this, which is really interesting. In fact, let's share the screen and share this part, because the only tool that we need is a phone. And using the same invention, we can create opportunities for those that don't have a phone to have a phone, and we've done this now. I don't even know how many we've done, but it's been a lot, and it's also creates opportunities for people to have, this SCG, a phone they can interact with. It's been fantastic. As people pay, then we have a payment to do it again. And then even the stores now are selling on credit themselves. And that's what we want to, encourage.
HuFi moved from theory to real impact in Nigeria. The pilot saw many successes: farms, clinics, factories. These projects show HuFi building true community wealth. Out of all these tangible achievements in the pilot, which single project resonated with you the most? Why? Tell us the history behind that achievement.
We've accomplished a lot. And these are things that are not being done anywhere in the world. And I'm going to share HuFi water. I mean, this is this is amazing that we were able to. In fact, you said that we went from the theoretical to the practical. Well, we zoomed. We flew from the theoretical right to the practical. And this is my favorite accomplishment, because literally and figuratively, water is the basis for life. And in essence, for me, this achievement is the basis for other people to be able to empower themselves to survive, right? We drink water because we need to, but the reality is that we also need to be economically busy and economically meaningful. Right now, monetary policy through fractional reserve lending is few entities controlling the supply. But the reality is that everybody should have a say in the supply. Here we go, the water. There's a video of SCG, the water facility that was created using the invention. I mean, the tiles were bought on credit. The people are being hired to provide security, the production of the water, the job creation. Now we're selling the product on credit using the invention. This without a doubt, the process along the way, we went from a water well that was drilled on credit, and everybody bought in. The people selling this pump here sold it on credit. They put the labor on credit, and now that we're selling the product, all these people are getting paid. And look at this. The structure that you see to the right was built using the invention, and now we have a machine that produces the packages. Look at that. This must have been amazing for everyone there. By the way, they drilled I think it was 12 hours, to finally get the water. And now this is the beginning of the HuFi water facility, and everybody did it lending their time. It's fantastic.
HuFi's innovation pattern is settled in the US. In America, wants to be a leader in technology and crypto right now. Can the US truly lead by adopting this model?
Well, we hope the United States does take a lead in making blockchain technology better understood, because the power of blockchain is not in the cryptocurrency value. And as an example, Bitcoin, for example, what can Bitcoin do? It's just a representation of value. How is Bitcoin viable for everyone? Now, I do understand the ideas behind it. Limited supply is generated by third parties, and there's not an unlimited supply. It's not being used by certain organizations to create more out of it for their benefit and then charging interest on it, right? That's fractional reserve lending. So I do understand the advantage of Bitcoin, but in essence, one of the goals was to create a world currency that everybody could use, where it wasn't created into into existence from thin air, right? And this is where the idea of proof of work comes. But HuFi movement, the human generated finances, is taking too many steps in front of it, really, based on our effort and how much we've been seeing rewarded for our effort, because in the end, it is the deployment of the code, and it's that matters. And this deployment of the code to provide a service is what sets aside the blockchain technology area to be immensely powerful. I mean, at the end of the day, it behooves us all if the value we create today grows in value over time. I'll give you an example. So there's, I live near a freeway, a very well-known freeway, the 405, right? And the 405, we'll take a section of it on Ventura Boulevard to Sunset, and I think that's maybe 4 or 5 miles. And 1 mile of this freeway is now, if you had to redo it again, it's like $1 billion per 1 mile, right? And so that has value, right? Because now that's what it would take to create it. But the people that made it in the 50s, and they're on their Social Security, they're only getting paid for the wages they earned in the 50s, but the asset they were created in the 50s is now worth thousands of times more. I haven't looked it up, but I'm sure the 405 in the 50s was probably $1 billion for, who knows how many miles, or if that was enough to build it. As we grow older, it should have been these people's work that then grew in value in conjunction with the value of what they created. And so this is what blockchain technology now opens, is that we can all do a service, and if the supply is held, then whatever we participate to create today will have value tomorrow. And so, going back to your question, is we do hope that the United States takes an active role. I think it's happening, because there's just too many efficiencies that you can find in blockchain technology that cannot be found in Web 2.0. And then the biggest part that we haven't touched yet is the inclusion of everyone else, including the people that are part of that service, to be rewarded for being a part of that service.
HuFi seek mass adoption by the common person. How does your technology guarantee the necessary simplicity and constant flow of liquidity to let local people take control and scale the model?
So the answer to that, everyone, get a phone. Find a way to even buy the phone on credit, and start. All the information to create a website is out there, and more importantly, we've hired promoters that show others how to do it. And so our goal is to get to a level where anyone can teach someone else how to do it. We're talking now about autopay, HuFi autopay, and so this always triggers this video that helps people to understand how everyone can participate and the logic behind it. And so let's go with this here.
How about the $20 you owe me?
Oh, yeah? Well, I only got 10, so here's 10 and I owe you 10.
Thanks.
Hey, Mo, you owe me 20.
Well, here's 10 and I'll owe you 10.
You owe me 20.
Here's 10, I owe you 10.
Here's the 10 I owe you.
Here's the 10 I owe you.
Here's the 10 I owe you. Good, now we're all even.
So the thing I really enjoy about that is that you didn't need the 10. And at first they're saying, where's the $10 you owe me? But then they're saying, here's the 10 that I owe you and the 10 that I owe you. But the reality then is that it doesn't have to be $10. It could be anything 10. But then the reality, if you go even further, is that do you really need anything at all? And so that's yet still one of the ideas that we want to code at some point, but not until we focus on adoption. And this is why we now limited the steps about what the HuFi movement is. Get a website, use it, do it again. Well, list your loan, because we did code this, and we call it auto pay, QFI auto pay. And if you list a loan that you owe, and you offer loans to others, and they list that loan, when they pay you, you pay this loan, and hopefully this other person that you owe to borrows from them. And then the reality is that we don't need $10 or anything at all. You know, maybe at some point we just need an algorithm that says all these people owe each other, and how about nobody, you know, it recognizes, we push a button, and then everybody's debt just goes down because there is a connection between the people. So what you're saying is that everybody's making a conscious, a deliberate choice to employed or not employed. And that is also part of how we've been talking about, you know, how much, we want the United States to take a lead in promoting this technology. But in essence, I would prefer that just people in general make this conscious effort to promote this technology, because it's going to make them better. You know, the logic is very simple. You at the basics, use your time to create a product or a service. You know, we could use just digging the hole for the foundation of these buildings, and to dig that hole, you need time more than anything. And in construction, it's the biggest expense is labor. It's not the materials. You know, a cinder block is just water, a little bit of cement, and mostly dirt. But the majority of it is the effort to build it, and then to put it together and build it. The logic then is taking another step forward, where you can list this loan. There are a lot of actions that can be created if the currency, you know, the community currency, the value is jumping from account to account, right? And I think we did something mathematically on this, because remember, there is a 1% fee associated with each transaction, but of the 1%, percentages are shared, and some are shared for those that stake MLT to earn a return on the services provided that other people use. And man, this can be in tangent with many other things. So the future is bright, but you know, we got to get there.
What strategic element must be secured for global replication?
Up to a certain point, I mean, there isn't guarantees that the loans will be paid, you know, and that's just part of, you know, a business life. But there are certain advantages that the traditional system doesn't have. You know, one, when you lend someone, it creates a record and a receipt, and this receipt is viewable by everyone. So technically it's evidence that this other person borrowed from you, and you can take it in front of a judge and say, hey, this is my evidence. The other issue is that it's all part of the blockchain, so everybody sees it. So obviously, if one person is just borrowing and not paying, everybody will be able to see that, you know, that you're a bad creditor. You know, that already happens, right? In developed countries that have credit ratings and this and the other, but you know, it's a closed system. So only these people that are running it have access to the information, while the reality is that we should all be able to see it. And the other issue is that the Q5 movement, we are choosing to deploy at a grassroots level where it's more of a community. So the external information that, hey, this person doesn't pay, travels within the community. And so it behooves everyone to be better, act responsibly, and make your payments. But here's the difference too, is that if you have time, and we all do, right? Because if you don't have time, then you're dead, right? While you have time, you're able to lend it. And it's with this idea in mind that then you can create value to pay for the things that are buying on credit. And then it also creates a record of who you are. Because if all you do is borrow And if you pay, that's not bad, right? But what about you lending? And so all this HU5 movement and HU5 tools and block explorers and blockchain technology have access to everyone saying, who you are as a person, right? And I always thought that this is also, this, to me, this is not about today. To me, this is not like 20, 30 years from now, because even government and the politicians that we elect, who we choose to speak on our behalf, right? But we don't know anything about these people. How were they when they were 10 years old or 15 or 20 or 25, but now we do, right? This blockchain technology and, saying that, hey, this person paid and this person lent, it tells us more about who this person is. All of a sudden, we just have people coming up, but we don't know anything about who they are. And so blockchain technology opens up a little window into gathering more information about, who we're dealing with.
The HU5 model is proven and patented, moving from pilot to massive. Global expansion is the next goal.
So, I think you and I have talked about this already. And the biggest problem that we're finding, it's adoption. But this adoption part is now, it's dividing, right? We're gotten to the point where we can dissect this adoption issue a little more, right? So at first, we started and there's getting a digital wallet. And I don't know if you remember, but someone else had to do it. And for the other person, so that they would have an EOS account, because you couldn't create an account unless you had an account. And so we created a bot that helps people create their own account. We can do HU5 Nigeria, HU5 El Salvador, HU5 USA within a short amount of span. But the issue is that to sustain the HU5 movement to this time, it's taking a lot of money. Now, granted that we're using the tokenomics of the blockchain to help create the liquidity to support the promotions and so on and so forth. So to be able to duplicate these services in other areas, I would like for that to be a mirror. And so we're in the works trying to get that established. We're in the works trying to sell the patent or license the patent, but it comes back to adoption. And so we have to figure out what we want for this adoption to be. We talked that there's a lot of services out there, big time services that people are not aware of, that are already using blockchain technology to send payments, send money, and have immediate settlement, or pretty close to immediate settlement. Well, this isn't happening by, without blockchain technology to some level. And so we're using it already. The issue then becomes, is that where we're headed? Where people are just not going to be knowing they're using blockchain technology and they're just doing something, and it's blockchain technology underneath the hood, and outside of the hood, it's just like Web 2.0. You're logging into a website, you're doing this, and then in the middle, blockchain is computing all the advantages, and then on the output, it's back to Web 2.0. But the problem there, and again, remember, you're talking about, well, how do we grow it? Well, the main problem now, it's not the technology, it works. I mean, I can ask you, you've been around for 7 years. Have you ever seen a problem with a record that doesn't belong where it belongs? So the answer is no. No, it's worked perfectly. But it's adoption, the issue, adoption. And so again, we break it down. So what is it? And how little do we want people to participate so that more people adopt it? And so that's where we're at. And so the way that we're traditionally doing it, because that's the only way we knew better until we're, to get to the next challenge, was that, you got to get an EOS account. You got to have resource for it. Now, we pay for the resources. Now you needed a website. Well, how can you do a website with no credit card, no coding experience, no bank accounts, and have people do it? Well, we did that, and we're doing that. Now we have autopay. And so now we have the records. Now we have the telegram.
What is the central strategic advantage of the Q5 model? What core philosophy drives that difference?
Yeah. I mean, there's no comparison. We obviously need the support, the hand in hand of political ideas and deployment of a policy that will help people socially. But nothing beats the capitalistic way of getting people to be better on their own. There's also the issue that, well, look what happened with USAID. The dependence on this money being given to NGOs around the world, or companies around the world. This administration, the current U.S. administration, made it disappear in a snap of a finger. And so what happened to all those people? They got held with nothing. And partly, and whose fault is it? By at the end, what you're talking about is exactly where we need to go next. You can't be dependent on the government if it isn't working, right? The Q5 movement is not a charity. The Q5 movement is not food for today. It's not a fish for today. The Q5 movement is teaching how to fish so that you can eat every day. But it does rely on the person being active and taking risks and working hard to make it happen.
Q5 is a proven, patented solution for 2 billion excluded people. What is your call to global leaders and institutions to help validate and replicate this innovation?
At the end of the day, you just do what you can. We have a very vibrant and committed and dedicated X campaign where we reply to those that are sending messages about the achievements of blockchain technology and what we can do, and then we show not the theory, but the examples happening today, processing of food and all these great things. And for years, every time I do something like this, I tag the United Nations, and never has anyone done anything to it. So the question is very tough, because if it shouldn't be a call to the leaders of the worlds, or the leader of the countries. It should be a call to each individual to do what you can do. The power is in your hands to change your present, but it does take effort, which goes back to the biggest problem that I see, and it's adoption. But then the adoption isn't because it's simplicity. The adoption really is because human nature doesn't want to take extra steps, and if you ask me, I mean, we're talking from like 1 step to 2 steps. So it's very, it's very frustrating to some extent, but there are those that do it, and you see them progress. Processing of crops now by multiple people, because we have machines, and you see the Q5 clinic, a doctor being able to offer services that they know they have in their head, and all they're needing to do is leverage their time, and it's converting these things into action that everybody could be doing it across the world. And so it starts with the people, and that's how I would want to see it, right? Let's say that we're successful in licensing the invention. The product that is going to come out of it, it's not a product for everybody. It's going to be a product for those that can make their lives that are easier, but that they'll employ it because it's easier. Because in business, how we move forward, is either you sell more or you find ways to spend less. And blockchain is definitely a tool for every business to spend less. The last chapter has not been written yet, my friend Juan.
Well, thank you for sharing the revolutionary vision behind humanized finance and the EU5 movement. It's clear that the future of finance is not only centralized, it is to P2P focus on people, time, and utility. We wish you the best as you scale this solution for 2 million of people worldwide. And thank you our audience for joining us. Until next time, have your blessing wherever you are.